Hello and welcome to another live edition of the Nittany Dispatch. I am John Sauber, Penn State beat writer at the Center Daily Times. She is Audrey Snyder doing the same at Inside the Lions. And we have a special guest here today. We spoke with Penn State general manager Derek Hoodjer earlier. Talked to him for about a half an hour about roster building philosophy, got into his relationship with Matt Campbell, a bunch of stuff. And Audrey, he's not the only person we'll be talking to over the course of next month.
It turns out that John and I are tired of just talking to each other around here. We're tired of shouting into the void. We do enough of that. There's plenty of that still to come all throughout the season. Our lovely post game episodes that people love. But yeah, we've got some special guests joining us throughout the month of June. I guess July. I guess we're almost in July. Yeah, month of July. Yep. Just a kind of a logistical thing here. Penn State staff, they will be getting a much needed vacation here. So they will be out of office for a little bit. But that did not stop John and I from badgering these wonderful folks with lots of questions, bringing some of them on the podcast here. So we got with Taylor Mauser this week as well. So we'll have that for you guys next week. I don't know, John. I feel like I have been in that football building more times in the past 3 months than the previous 15 years.
And the audience will get to see that you did this interview from the football building.
That's right. They I was over in the linebackers room today, knocked out some other interviews for other stories that I'm doing over at my Substack. Really, I mean, it's this time of year because we often hear from people. They're like, well, what do you guys do in the off season? Like, what happens? For sure, it is a little bit slower. I mean, the month of May, I kind of vanished for a little bit here in June, but stuff picks up. And it's really, for me, it's the build up to media days, which is a month away. So it's trying to gather as much preseason content as you can. But also with a new staff, I mean, you're trying to get to know them, their philosophies, how they, in this case with Derek, how do you want to build this roster out? How do you want to do this thing? Same thing. We'll get into it with Mauser next week of, kind of the tenets of his offense and those kinds of things. So just a really fun time of year to try and get some insight. And that's why we wanted to kind of bring you guys, our loyal listeners, along for the ride. Because I don't know, John, what are we marching toward now? Is
we're over 4,000. We're marching toward 5,000. I will continue to badger people, which is a good reminder. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button down below. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts after the fact, don't forget to leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. But yeah, I think we can get to it here. And as I try and nail these button clicks here to make sure this ends up looking right, let's get to our interview with Penn State General Manager Derek Hoodjer. And we are here now with Penn State General Manager Derek Hoodjer. Derek, how's it going?
Things are well. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Derek, there is never a dull moment in college sports. We're kind of in another one this week, right? With 5 for 5. Obviously, so much of your job is forecasting out, right? And forecasting this roster strengths, areas of weakness, trying to address that. What does 5 for 5 mean for you guys? What do you think the impact is kind of going to be?
Yeah, I think there will be a large scale impact, and as soon as we kind of saw that might be coming down the pike, started to try to at least wrap your mind around how it might impact us moving forward. And obviously the starting point is you've got true seniors on your team who will all of a sudden have a decision to make that they weren't initially planning on having to make. You forecast out a little bit further, there are some guys that are maybe true sophomores or true juniors who may have a similar decision to make a couple of years from now. And then the other component that, not a lot of people have, I think, talked about quite yet is just how many additional players will have availability to play another season across college athletics, whether that's at their own school or maybe using their final year to transfer elsewhere. And it's just another class of players that are going to be eligible to potentially go out and recruit and acquire for your roster a year from now. So I think there's a lot of moving parts to it, and certainly I think it's a great rule for the players. And previously you'd always find yourself in instances towards the end of the season of, do we want to sit this kid after 4 games, or do we want to play him? And it forced kids, I think, to be in difficult situations where they had to maybe say, well, it's better for me if I don't play, but it's better for the team if I do play. And so I certainly really appreciate that is not a part of this anymore. And managing the rosters and the availability of additional players, both to retain and go out and recruit in the portal, is certainly something that we're planning for.
Well, and you mentioned that sort of the guys getting extra years that are seniors this year. How much does that impact your 2027 class, right? Like, does it alter your numbers at all? Like, are you doing the math now on how many guys you can take versus how many you were going to take? What is kind of the process like there?
There certainly has been a little bit of that, and obviously you're dealing with a finite amount of roster space. I think you always have to try to take a balanced high school class, because under the current rules, the reality is you don't know exactly who will be back, who won't be back, and there's so much to occur still, right? Of you haven't even gotten in a fall camp, got to go play the season and let it shake itself out. So regardless, I think you want to have a really good foundation of a high school class coming in into that 2027 class. But there are absolutely some guys on our team that at least at this point you would think there's a good possibility that a fifth year might make a lot of sense for them, that they didn't initially plan. And obviously it'll be critically important for us to give ourselves the opportunity to be in a position to allow that kid to do that. So it certainly made a little bit of adjustment in the 2027 class, and it'll change, even moving forward of maybe there were some spots you might have to go to the portal at that now you don't have to. You just got to retain a player that's all of a sudden got new eligibility.
Derek, we're in such a unique spot right now too, with how every staff decides, the GM role versus portal, who handles high school recruiting. What I think is really fascinating about you guys is I sat down with Jack Griffith earlier this week, and he outlined the portal process and how he goes about it. Can you just kind of maybe explain to fans how you guys have it structured in terms of what you're doing versus what Jack's doing, and how you kind of then combine to build this roster out? Because I think this is the part of the sport that fans are super fascinated in right now too.
Yeah, I think you always have to be thinking of each particular roster in three buckets, which is high school recruiting, retention, and then using the portal. And I think as you go about that, like I said a little bit ago briefly, the foundation's always got to be bringing in a balanced, competitive high school class every year. And then from there, you got to evaluate your roster. Who do you think is going to come back? Who do you think will maybe transfer out? Who do you think might declare for the draft early? Who do you think needs to play through their season to have any idea what's going to be the best decision for them? And in the back of your mind, you're knowing the entire time you're going to have to use the portal as well. And so we've really, Jack obviously leads kind of the portal scouting for us and does a really good job of just evaluating the college football landscaping and understanding who the players are. And so that if and when a young man decides to go in the transfer portal, you're not starting from scratch. You've at least got an evaluation on that player. And then our high school recruiting is always going to be the lifeblood of the program. And we've got a handful of people that are focusing their time, effort, and energy on identifying the players in the high school ranks of that kind of fit the qualities that we want to recruit, and then evaluating the players, and then obviously going out and recruiting them. And so the high school thing is year round. I would say the entire staff is focused on it, and it's 27s, 28s, 29s, 2030s, and so that's the entire program consistently doing it. The portal, I think, is probably 11 months out of the year you're just preparing for it, and then it comes and goes really quickly, and you got to make sure you've put in the work to be ready to handle it as it comes at that time.
Every time I see a 2030 recruit, a chill goes up my spine as I age rapidly. I hate this so much. Yeah. I hated when it was 2025, and now it's happening far too quickly. But you mentioned sort of that baseline being the balanced high school class. How much of the thought process of roster construction is resource allocation? Because with high school kids, there's a level of unknown, right? Like they haven't gone through the maturation process. They're not physically developed yet. Whereas with portal guys, there's a little more certainty. Sometimes they're transferring levels and whatnot, so you don't know exactly what you're going to get. So how do you go about allocating resources between high school recruiting and portal recruiting when you know that maybe one is a little bit more certain than the other?
Yeah, I think you have to look at your roster and project out where you're going to be, and try to project. Number one, the most critical thing is always going to be resource allocation to ensure that you can retain your team. That's always the most important thing, and unfortunately, that's that's kind of the second thing in the sequence of order, right? Is the first sequence is high school recruiting, then retention comes about, and then the portal follows it. But the most critically important thing to us is always making sure we're going to be in a position to retain our team. And then from there, you're trying to project out, what do you think the roster and the depth chart in each particular position group is going to look like? And when you're doing that, and whether you're evaluating a guy in your own roster, you're evaluating a need and that you feel like you're going to have to go to a portal for, or evaluating a high school player, you got to kind of project where you think they'll fit and assign a value to that. And then you start to make the decisions. If your value's off of maybe what another school's is, then that's obviously when you have to make some hard decisions of, does this or does this not make sense? And there's a little bit of a give and take there, obviously. But I think you have to think about all three buckets of that at the same time.
When you guys got here in December, I guess it was, does it feel like it's been that long, or is it short?
It feels like it's been 2 days and 2 years all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I feel every time I talk to John on here.
Yeah.
That's fair.
When you guys kind of got here, right, it was, I remember you telling us in January, it was a lot of, we need to evaluate this current roster to determine, strengths, weaknesses, who we want to retain, but also then go out, right, build out the portal strategy, all those kinds of things. What do you remember looking back on it now, maybe like the craziest moment of that December, January, trying to put this roster together? Because one of the things that stuck out to me was when we talked to Matt Campbell in maybe January, February, he's like, we didn't just build a roster. Like, we actually feel like we have a team and there's layers to it. It's not like too senior heavy. So what do you kind of remember about that time period?
Yeah, I remember, you were just juggling a lot, and, you were trying to prepare for the portal and understand who was going to be available to us in that realm. You were trying to get to know and evaluate the players at Penn State. You were also trying to figure out the operational things you needed to learn and understand. How do we even host an official visit here? And where is the hotel that we're going to use? And what is the process like to get into school? And who do we send the transcripts to? And there was just a lot in a really short amount of time. I do vividly remember the night that Anthony Donka told us he was going to come back, and that felt like a kind of the tide was turning in that moment of okay, he was as critical as anyone. And there was a handful of guys that probably 10 or so guys that we knew hey, we absolutely have to do everything we can to get these guys back to Penn State. And when you walked in the door, it was pretty loud and clear. There were a lot of really good things going on here too, and a lot of really good humans who happened to be really good football players. And we wanted to make sure that the starting point was, how can we help paint the picture of why those guys should stay. And I do vividly remember that night when he said, hey, I'm in, I'm going to stay. And that kind of started a snowball effect for us. And so that's where I think we started to build some momentum. And, obviously Tony and Rapp and AC and Zion, and the list goes on and on of those guys starting to believe in this and wanting to stay here, I think helped us build a lot of really good momentum. And I would say that was the most critical thing that happened.
When you first got here, what was the biggest difference, right? I know obviously the resources are different at Penn State, but what was the biggest change for you guys, right? I'm sure some of those negotiations, the numbers are just different, and it's weirder to be in that realm, but what was the first thing you noticed?
Yeah, I think it was just we were so fortunate at Iowa State that we had kind of been shielded from the new realities of college football. We had been there so long, the kids had all kind of known what they were walking into, and there was such a unified buy-in of everything that was happening that we didn't have a lot of problems with the portal. Not a lot of our guys, there wasn't a lot of negotiation. It was pretty honest, transparent conversation built on relationship of hey, this is what we think makes sense. And a lot of thanks so much, really fired up to be here. It means the world. And I don't know if that exists anywhere anymore. I think it has changed across the entirety of the landscape, but that component of retaining a team kind of flipped on its head from what we were used to previously. And by no fault of anyone, I think it was the reality of where college football had changed. And then I feel for the Penn State players, like they went through a couple months there where they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do. And obviously to protect themselves probably had to start to plan, is it going to be here? Is it going to be elsewhere? And then all of a sudden these new people walk in the door. And so you're just trying to build relationships and build trust and build up equity in such a short amount of time. And so that is what I would say was the difference from a global landscape.
Well, we kind of look at it now. So much of it is, can you win here? You got the resources, right? You have that. Can you win here with the same formula that you guys are really successful with at Iowa State in terms of you like, maybe the 3-star guy who has the right traits that you can develop? Do you think that model, Derek, can apply here? Or like, how do you maybe grapple with, hey, maybe we don't want to get too far from what got us here because we know that model works? How do you maybe balance that with, you have the resources, but hey, we also really like the developmental piece?
Yeah, I think number one, we want to recruit, retain, acquire the very best players that we can, that we feel like fit, whether they're 5 stars, 2 stars, or 6 stars. Like we do want the very best players we can get. And with that being said, where we can't deviate from is football is a really imperfect game, and attitude, effort, toughness, discipline, detail, doing my job right every single time, that still matters. And it's going to really matter in November when it's really cold and it gets really hard and it's 4th and inches. And so it's so much more than just simply acquiring talent. Like, you've got to build a team, and you've got to build a team in so many different ways now. There's ready-made players, there's transfer portal players, there's elite difference makers who are playmaking superstars, and there's guys you've never heard of who are the backup left guard, but they end up starting for 4 games because there was an injury and they waited their entire career for that opportunity. Like, the people that impact winning and losing come in so many different forms and fashions, and the recruiting pipeline allows you to have a space for all of those guys. And so recruiting the most talented guys we can is certainly important. And some of them are going to be ready to walk in the door and play right away, and some might take 2 or 3 years. Some of them might have 4 or 5 stars written next to their name. Some of them may be really under-evaluated. And we try to not allow all of those things to kind of influence our decision-making, but really do a good job of evaluating the players for what they are, getting to know them, and making our own decisions based on what information we have available.
How different is recruiting at Penn State? You mentioned the 4s, 5 stars, whatever. How different is it recruiting at Penn State from a fan perspective? Because I think there's inevitably a little more pressure, right? Fans are paying attention year round to the stars you're getting, and that is their perception sort of a recruiting class, is like how many stars are next to a kid's name. And there's obviously a level of trust that they have to develop with you guys to know that, hey, maybe just because this kid isn't a 4-star doesn't mean that he can't be a high-level player at Penn State. So how different is it for you knowing that those voices on the outside maybe are a little bit louder and trying to balance like the messaging of trust us, we have this type of thing?
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit different in the sense that the fan base is probably a little bit larger just in quantity, but Iowa State had a really passionate fan base as well, and Iowa State had a fan base that cares deeply about recruiting as well. And so there are some similarities there, and I think it's good that people are passionate and they have opinions. And to your point, I think the trust component may be a little bit different just because we had been there for so long and we had success over a long period of time. But I'll be really honest, like you probably have to see it a little bit, but being on our job, we are on social media and you see a little bit, but I work really hard to not, get influenced too much by it, or I appreciate everyone's passion and interest in those things, but you've got to make every decision based on what you think is best to ultimately win football games and do it year over year in a sustainable way. And your only chance to have success is do it how you believe in. And we're so fortunate that Matt Campbell is really clear in how he wants to build this football program. And there's great alignment and unity across our entire football staff. and knowing exactly how we're trying to do it. And that's the lead we want to follow more so than any other emotional part of it.
Listen, any tips you have to avoiding the tweets, the comments, I'm all ears, because as Audrey knows, I used to read every comment on this podcast because I am a sicko and I can't help myself. I've gotten a little better, but I still hate it a lot. It's the worst thing I do in the world. My wife hates it, I think, more than anybody.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But here's the thing, John. You don't have to read. Like, that's the, I think there's you get to help pointers. Like, yeah, you just don't have to look. Because who's not going to look at the comments on anything is Matt Campbell. I've found that out, right?
It's not that he won't look. He'll never see it. He just has no opportunity to.
There is nobody better at ignoring the noise than him. He literally does not have social media. He does not watch podcasts, doesn't listen to them. He does a really good job of insulating himself.
It's a healthy perspective. Yeah, we need to probably adapt that. When you kind of go back to, you said getting here, I remember you were like that second plane that landed here, right? It's Matt's on the first one. You're here right away. It's like we're hitting the ground running. How crazy was the turnaround from, hey, Matt's taking this job? Talking to a lot of the guys you work with, it was, hey, we thought maybe he was going to take it, but he's kind of keeping it close to the vest. We're not sure. Like, do you remember, was there a conversation where Matt was like, hey, Derek, I'm going, and like, I need you? Because obviously you've been with him for a long time.
Yeah. There were a lot of conversations over probably a 48-hour period of sorting through what we were going to do. And there was a component of it that was bittersweet for sure. And, we were really proud of what we had done at Iowa State. It was a place that was personal to me. And, it's hard to leave when you care so deeply about something. And so there was certainly a bittersweet component to it, but there was also an excitement and just a real genuine appreciation for the opportunity to come to Penn State. And there was a part of me too that was just really happy for Coach Campbell, that he was finally going to have an opportunity to do what was best for him rather than for his entire career. Every day he always does what's best for the people around him. And in doing so, obviously he gave us all an incredible opportunity too. But for him to have the chance to come back home and to be the head coach at Penn State and to take a job that transparently he had kind of always dreamt of doing, there was a lot of energy and happiness for him and excitement to have the opportunity to be here. And then once you really got on the plane, it was like, okay, there's going to be a boatload of work, and it happened really fast. And you would have liked to have maybe been more prepared. You're never going to be prepared in that moment, but you're like, man, there's these 10 things I wish I would have done over the last week before this all happened. That obviously it comes together too fast to even do it, but you knew you're going to have to hit the ground running really quickly. And so it was all of those emotions at once, and it came fast, and there was a lot, but it was certainly an exciting time to look back on.
You may never get an easier question than this, but why have you tethered yourself to Matt Campbell? What makes him someone that you want to be around and want to work for?
He is he's the best. He's genuine. He's authentic. He cares about other people. The day-to-day Matt Campbell behind the scenes is actually better than the one you see publicly, and I know the public one's pretty good too. He takes care of people in a way that I've never seen another leader do, and that's by building relationships, by being there for them, by supporting them in whenever there may be a time of need. He's the most giving person I've ever known, whether it be of his resources or his time or his energy. He's a really special guy, and I'm really fortunate to be a part of his program for sure.
Well, now that John asked the easy question, now I'm kind of after that. How do I follow that up? That's
good luck.
Yeah. When you mentioned Matt and how special he is as a person. One of the things that surprised me when I sat down with him a week or so ago was just, I said, where do you get all these quotes from, right? Because the guy's got sayings for seemingly everything.
Yeah.
And he said he reads a lot. And then he showed me his collection in his office, got books all over the place. Has he given you any books to read? Because I know he likes to hand them out, is what he was telling me.
Oh yeah, he's always giving out books. Chop wood, carry water is like the go-to.
Mhm.
If you ever, we always have to have like 1,000 copies of that in his office because he likes to hand that out. But yeah, if you ever at any given moment in his backpack, there's like 4 or 5 books that he's reading somehow all at the same point in time, and pulling something from it. And he does a really good job with that. And there have been a handful that we've kind of passed back and forth and enjoyed reading. And I don't read as much as him. I probably should. I'd probably be better if I did get in that habit. But yeah, certainly he's known for doing that.
Like you said, he's not going to see this, so you can be honest about this.
Yeah.
What was the worst book that he gave? Like, how many of these have you just been like, all right, I'm not doing this? Like, I'm like, you start reading your 2 pages in, you're like, no, I'm good.
There have been a couple. I'm not going to say it just because maybe the author is like a Penn State.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I don't want to get myself in trouble. There's been a couple. I'm like, really? You like this one? Yeah, and have to put it down.
Yeah. Do you at least tell him you don't like it, or you just have to pretend to like, hey, that was great? Like,
no, that's the great. You can be honest. I can say, this book stinks. There's no way you read it.
Because, I mean, he had like note cards in the books and everything. And because
yeah.
I left his office with like a list of books that I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to read these. And obviously Chop Wood, Carry Water, because he has the team reading it and used it at Iowa State. So I'm like, I got to read this. But I think it's really interesting when you look at like the job that you're in, because these are positions that in college sports didn't exist a few years ago. How did you get into this? Because obviously, you go back, you've had so many different roles at Iowa State, but what was like growing up? What were you like, I want to do this, I want to be a coach? What was kind of the path there?
Yeah, I always wanted to be in football. And I went to college and was a volunteer student assistant at Iowa State, and was really fortunate to get my foot in the door there. And it was a time where staffs were much smaller. And so there was an opportunity for me to probably have more responsibilities than I deserved at the time. And my entire plan was to become a high school football coach and teacher. And then right as I was finishing up my undergraduate, our head coach at the time was Paul Rhodes, and the defensive coordinator was Wally Burnham. They gave me an opportunity to become a graduate assistant. I was really young and hadn't played college football, and I knew it was too good to be true. And I was really fortunate that they gave me that opportunity. So I did it. And we had the staff changed over then after that season, and Coach Campbell gets hired at Iowa State. By happenstance, I had built a really good relationship with our running backs coach at the time. Louis Ayeni is his name. Lou had come from Toledo, actually, so it was a small world deal. And Lou kind of connected me with Coach Campbell. And the night he got hired, I basically sat in the defensive staff room until 2 a.m. He finally walks in the building and kind of pokes his head in and says, "Who are you?" And we met, kind of hit it off, and I stayed there as a graduate assistant for another semester. And then as he was building out the recruiting department, kind of moved into that space, and then kind of got elevated a couple of years later. And then as college football has changed, the day-to-day of this role has obviously changed a lot along the way. But just in its simplest form, trying to help him build a roster, that's kind of been what I've come to work to do every day now for 10 years.
So we are asking everyone these. Mouse gave us a great story, which I'm not going to spoil because I actually think we're going to air this interview before that one. But Mouse gave us a great one. I'll tell you after we're done recording what it was. What is your favorite Matt? Make sure it doesn't get anybody fired. What's your favorite Matt Campbell story?
Oh man, there's a million of them, and there's a lot of funny ones. Probably playing pickup basketball with him is great. The best story, though, honestly, I'll tell you, is my father. I lost him to cancer about 1.5 years ago. And he went through his cancer treatments in Ames, actually. And Matt showed up every other week to see him at the hospital with me in the middle of the football season. And including, that was the Big 12 championship season. And then the week after we played in the Big 12 championship game is when my dad went to hospice. And Matt was actually in my dad's hospice room when Chase Sowell called us to FaceTime to commit to Iowa State. And the best story, though, is just how he treated my family and how he was there for my dad. One of the last things my dad ever said was like, you make sure you work for Matt Campbell for as long as you can. And so I think that really paints a picture of who he is. And so there's a lot of different ways I could go with those stories, but that's probably the best one, to be honest with you.
I think we've got the perfect dichotomy between that story and Mouse's story of the opposite ends of the spectrum of who Matt Campbell is from a funny standpoint and a meaningful standpoint.
Yeah. Going out to eat with him is hilarious too, because like he orders blueberries and chia seeds. Like that's a meal to him.
Yeah,
that's alarming.
That's pet food. That is like bird feed.
He's like a health freak. So you'll have to ask him what he ate for lunch next time you see him.
As you know, that's not me. That's not. I will. That's good to know that I'm never getting lunch with Matt. That's nice to know.
Yeah, well, we thank you for coming on, Derek, and for giving us all your time. I know you guys are about to get out of here, get some vacation time in because, man, we're like, what, a month out from 5 weeks from.
Please stop reminding me.
It's getting close.
Yeah, we got media days in a month, and I just don't want to think about it. Like, I'm just trying to avoid that. It's like the snowball coming down the hill, and I'm just running as fast as I can. It's not going to work. So, but thanks again, Derek. We appreciate your time, and we'll go to our ad break and get back to the show. Unmute myself here real quick. Audrey, you should do the same. But we are back. Thanks again to Derek for joining us to talk about a lot of stuff there. We'll break it down here for a little bit. But first, Audrey, you want to tell the good folks watching and listening about our friends at Roback?
Mm-hmm. You guys can check out roback.com and save 20% off of your first purchase with code TND20. That's TND20 as in the Nittany Dispatch 20. John did it once again. He didn't wear the corgi polo. Keeps saying he's going to do it, but you've been getting a lot of golf in this week, right? So
I have.
Maybe, are you wearing the corgi polo on the course?
Yeah. Oh, it's in the rotation. I rotate through probably 8 or 9 Roback shirts that I wear. I always wear the Roback shorts when I golf. Spectacular. I've played some excellent rounds in that corgi polo. So
sure.
One of these days I'll wear it on the pod.
Again, that's code TND20, TND20. Save 20% off of your first purchase at roback.com.
So what was your biggest takeaway from Derek after we talked to him earlier today?
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I mean, obviously there's like the newsy angle of 5 for 5, and I'm working on a story about that as well. But the one that sticks with me is the Matt Campbell anecdote, honestly. Like, so much of this offseason for us is trying to figure out this staff and who these guys are as humans, as people. And that one to me just really speaks volumes. I think from my interactions with Matt Campbell, from my interactions with this staff, there is a level of authenticity. There is a level of humility. There is no ego. Like, it's so different here. And I think, we talked about it a lot in the spring. We wrote about it a lot in the spring and the winter even too. And I think you're just seeing and hearing more of it. So honestly, that's one that sticks with me. John, what do you got?
Yeah, no, I think that kind of tracks, right, with everything we've heard about Matt and sort of who he is as a person, as a coach. And I am, like I said in the interview, I'm looking forward to people hearing the Mouse story as well. But I think this is a representation of who he is, how much his people mean to him. Like, if you're close with him, he will do whatever you need, right? Like, and that's kind of how he is. He's there for his people. I think, from a football standpoint, the roster building can be very interesting moving forward. Everyone knows that they've missed on some receivers recently. We'll see what happens with Cleo Taylor and potentially going to Nebraska or Colorado or
July 6th, right?
Yes. Yeah. And Penn State is still an option there as well. But I think, my expectation is that they will probably lean more heavily on the portal than James Franklin did. I still think they want to build a roster from high school recruiting. They want to take, 3, 4, 5 stars, whoever it is. Like, they want to take those guys and build them up, but they also understand if they're going to, and this is me talking, I don't think Derek said anything about this during the interview, but like, I think the best path forward is if you're going to pay for production, if you're going to pay someone a lot of money, you want immediate production, right? And I think I think there is an undertone of that with why maybe Penn State isn't winning some of these biggest battles, right? Like that they, you know, if they're going to pay, they want to see a guy play right away. They want to see someone on the field and contributing. You can usually, guys who aren't ready, I mean, the truth of college football right now is if a guy isn't ready after year one, he might transfer anyways, and you might have a shot at him anyways when maybe he's a little bit further along. So I think that is something that I'm sort of monitoring moving forward. And like Derek said, they are going to, the foundation is the high school recruiting. But I do think that they're going to supplement much more than James did when he was at Penn State.
Yeah, to me, that's, your basis is always going to be high school and development and identifying frames that they like. I'll give you guys a little peek behind the curtain. I mentioned it in the interview, but I sat down with Jack Griffith this week, who's their portal guy. Fascinating conversation. I'm going to be writing about that over on my Substack and really laying out kind of the blueprint for what these guys value, how they go about finding it, identifying it. I just don't think this is a staff that is going to be enamored with, hey, there goes Joey 5-star or Joey 4-star or whoever, and they're from in our state and we're going to bend over backwards to make it work. Like, I just don't think they necessarily share that same perspective. And I think the other part here, and we're seeing this all throughout the sport, how many schools get involved with kids and they're raising the market value, right? It's so much of what we're seeing now is, okay, like you mentioned it, John, like, how do you want to spend the money, right? Do you want to spend the money on that high school kid that maybe he doesn't see the field right away? Well, you spent the money on him. You're not getting that back, right? And if he's mad if he's not playing, but you don't think he's ready to play, like, where's he going to go? And I just think these guys are going to be probably a little more, I don't know what the word is, not regimented, but a little more strict or like
Disciplined.
Responsible. Yeah, that's the word. Gosh, you can tell we're in late June.
Yeah.
Going to be a little bit more disciplined with their spending in terms of like, this is what we feel good about, and we're not necessarily going to like waver from that. So to me, like, that's fascinating.
A 5-star tight end isn't going to get 7 figures, type of thing. I think that is a pretty specific situation that I think probably applies to the past. But no, I think they're not in it for the PR of it, right? They don't need to win the recruiting battle to win the PR battle. Like they want to get players because they want the player, they want the person. And that's going to be first and foremost.
I think that's also the difference, and we mentioned it with Derek, but one of the things that's been abundantly clear is Matt Campbell is not reading stuff. He is not on social media. He is not texting us about headlines to our stories that he doesn't like. I mean, it is different. And, again, every coach is going to do it their way. That's their prerogative. But to me, it just seems like Campbell is in a really like healthy space with that in terms of like, I'm going to build it my way. I know this way works. And like, I'm going to be in my bunker. And like, he didn't care what we say, John. Like, I think that's that's the difference.
He won't see anything anyone tweets at him or we tweet or anything like that. Like, just not who he is. And, I'm not saying it's going to work, but I think it's probably healthier. As I said,
yeah, we don't know.
As someone who, as I said earlier, and very funny, by the way, comment here of the insert meme comment here. Yes, he's just further proof that I really do read everything, and I do see all of them. A little less so than I used to, but yeah, I think he is who he is. He's not sort of shy about that. And the other thing is they trust their evaluations, right? Like, they believe in themselves. They don't need a recruiting service to sort of validate that or for those opinions to be validated. Like, they are okay with trusting their evaluations over others. And sometimes that will mean that they're chasing 3 stars. Sometimes those end up lining up with recruiting services and they're 4 stars and 5 stars. But yeah, I think for better and for worse, this is a group that is going to believe in itself, has the confidence in itself. That starts with Matt Campbell. That continues with, you mentioned Jack Griffith. It continues with Derek Hoodjer. Like, it is who they are. And if it works, it's going to create, I think, a very sustainable model. Because if you hit on your evaluations enough, then when you're, you know what I mean, it's these lower recruited guys, you're going to land them more often. But yeah, I think to what you said about like the financial aspect too, I think it's important now to look at what schools are involved in a player's recruitment. I know people who sort of obsess over recruiting already do this, and you can kind of tell what the motives maybe are based on who's involved in recruitments. And I'll say that I think that is an active impediment in some current Penn State recruitments, right? That there's you can see the priorities in that way. But outside of that, I think I was going to say, you want to talk about stadium, or you got more?
I was going to say stadium or Adidas. Where do we want to head next?
Let's do stadium. Okay. We both individually spoke with Penn State Athletic Director Pat Kraft. I did last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. And you did.
I think we both keep swapping. Whenever somebody's on vacation, the other one,
Yes.
But you come on the podcast when you're on vacation. When I'm on, I don't. So
yeah, I'm currently on vacation. But yeah, I spoke to Pat a couple weeks ago. You spoke to him this week. I think said a lot of the same stuff to both of us about essentially the thing that people will take away is when it was phrased to me, it was that there will be at least 108,000 with potential for more. And I think you had potentially over 109,000, although they don't know that for sure.
Potentially, it could be potentially over 108. Again, like I think the thing that fans probably have to kind of wrap their head around, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, is like they're using all these different spaces, right? We saw the drink rails last year.
Yes.
Again, the upper west, right? The bleachers that are going in, which is like the most noticeable sign of the project going on. They're going to have fans in there this year. Now, how they kind of roll those out throughout the season, like that's something I got into in my story because that's going to be part of it. But that all impacts attendance, right? And you're not going to have people sitting in the big 3-story structure, right? That's phase 3, the nice club. I can't even think of the name of it.
Yeah,
that's not yet. That's coming. But this part of the project is stuff that fans are going to notice. It's the expanded concourse. It's the new video board. It's the sound system that's going to be in place by the end of July. Like those things that you're going to see. But to me, what makes this project like oh shoot, this is actually happening is when you look at the Upper West. I was driving by today to go over to the football building to do some of these interviews. And you see the structure, and you can kind of see like in the corner where they have it almost like taped out where the railing is going to be. And you're like, oh, like that's like 30 feet higher than what the structure used to be, which gives you a really good feel for the size and scope of it. At some point, John, I'm hoping we'll get in there before the season starts, because I want to see the view from there, and like, because you're supposed to be like closer to like better view.
I don't want to see the view from there.
We're gonna walk up to the top level, just like I did last year. Yeah.
I'd like to send my wonderful photographer Abby try to go look up there, but I have no interest in looking down at that view. Unless you just want to watch me shaking like a dog in a thunderstorm, then I think it's probably better for everybody.
Yeah.
But no, I think they're Kraft mentioned several times when I spoke to him that that sort of East Concourse is the thing he's most excited about, because it's easier for people to get around now. There will be people sitting on that west side. I think you had that as well. That it's not like you said the suites or anything, but it is going to be the bleacher seats. And as they can open them, they will open them, and they'll sell them when they can. But yeah, you want to switch to Adidas?
Yeah, let's switch. The 3-stripe life is coming.
Yes.
We are
less than a week.
Next Wednesday, July 1. That's when everything gets flipped to Adidas, ending, I believe, a 33-year partnership with Nike. This is big, John. I think everybody, rightfully so, has questions about the uniforms. What's it going to look like, this and that? As our listeners know, what intrigues me most is the weird stuff. Like, how in the world do you make all this happen? So I've been talking to people like really throughout kind of the switch, but especially ramping it up this past week and a half, about how they're doing it, how they're getting ready. Man, it is everything. It's the stuff you see with signage and marketing materials, and it's stuff that you probably otherwise wouldn't be thinking about. Like, hey, are these guys wearing Adidas socks, Adidas shorts,
right,
Adidas footwear? As you walk throughout the buildings, it's like, oh, there's a guy in the football building, like there's a sign, not an actual guy. There's like a visual. No, not a thing on a wall, not a painting, a picture on a wall. No, it's not a photo though. It's like a photograph. I don't know what you call it, but it's a thing on a wall, and it's the uniform, and it's got the Nike swoosh on it. So all that stuff, like they literally went through and marked every single building, every facility, every item of ways they had to get rid of it, which reminded me of a story I did last summer with Penn State women's volleyball about what happens when you win a national championship. They do the stars. So you had to go from 7 stars to 8. And again, they put that on the uniform all throughout their facility, branding. So projects like this, I mean, they touch every single aspect of your program. And Penn State announced right before our show started that they've got a pop-up shop going on right over in Pagula next week, July 1,
It is
July
funny
2.
Reading it like they can't name.
I was gonna say, it's like this new era. We're gonna.
It's a new thing. This new unnamed thing is gonna be here. But yeah, that'll be next week. They'll be selling presumably, and I tongue in cheek a little bit. Presumably, Adidas gear at you say it was Pagula, and that starts at 9 a.m. I believe. And they will also have a special creamery flavor that is going to be on sale. That's a good question. Probably something simple like the three stripe life, something like that.
I have strawberry. Like, what do you do?
It is funny every time I've been in the building of late. I wear a bunch of Adidas stuff, Nike stuff, Jordan stuff. Like you know what I mean? Like you see how I dress.
Roback.
Anytime, Roback, of course. Roback more than the other stuff. But if I have an Adidas shirt on when I'm in there, there's inevitably a comment like, "Oh, I already switching to this 3-stripe life," and I was like, "No, this has always been me." But no, I think we'll get into it next week when it happens too. We'll have an episode next week, like we said earlier, with offensive coordinator Taylor Mauser. We'll have that interview. We'll air next week, and we'll talk more about this switch then. But if you'd like to read, Audrey's got a bunch of stuff on Adidas from last summer, fall. I have the backstory on how this all happened, why it happened, why Penn State made this switch, a lot of the, behind the scenes stuff, the frustration from Penn State with how Nike viewed Penn State within its scope of brands. That won't be the case with Adidas. There's some other stuff too that is not in the story, but about, the reasons they didn't feel prioritized, right? Some of the things that maybe felt like slights from Nike that maybe we can get.
You're the big dog now, right?
Yeah.
You're the big dog with Adidas.
Them in Tennessee and presumably them, right? Because they signed their contract after. But yeah, we can get into all of that more next week too. But I think, unless you have anything else, that's probably a good place to leave it. As there is a thunderstorm warning here, and I don't need the power to cut out while we're live because that would be a disaster. Because we both know you don't know how to end the stream.
No way at all.
Yeah, one question here real quick that we can touch on. Why is Penn State struggling to lock down Northeast recruiting? I just think it goes back to what we said earlier about the specificity of what they're looking for and maybe the willingness to meet dollar amounts based on like quicker production and the knowledge that if a guy isn't ready to play right away, maybe he's going to transfer anyways, and then it's just kind of money lost. And so I think that is the gist of it.
Yeah, kind of the high school recruiting game from folks I've spoken to throughout the business. High school recruiting is changing in terms of high schoolers are commanding more money than they were a few years ago. So these guys want a lot of money, and Penn State, they want the best talent, but they're not gonna overspend on people. Again, I think it's the discipline of sticking true to what you value and those traits and those measurements. But like John said too, you want instant production. If you're going to spend a lot of money, you can't spend a lot of money and have a guy, come in and sit because he has to develop. Like that's just not the era that we're in now. So yeah, I think there's that going on. I'm doing a story on 5 for 5 and what that means, kind of forecasting out for the rest of this roster. But as John said, we will be back. What day? Do we have a day next week? What day?
Probably after the switch from Adidas, I would think.
Yeah.
Right. Probably Thursday next week, if I had to guess. Maybe late Wednesday. We'll figure it out. We'll be tweeting about it when it happens. But as Audrey said, you can find all of her stuff at InsideLines.substack.com. You can find her on Twitter at AudSnyder4 and on Blue Sky at AudreySnyder.bsky.social. You can find all of my writing at CenterDaily.com, including next week where I'll have a story where I sat down with Taylor Mauser and Jake Waters and broke down Rocco Beck's film and sort of got what they're essentially the idea behind what they want in a quarterback and why they believe in Beck as their quarterback. So looking forward to publishing that. Hoping to have some good videos out of that too, of sort of them breaking down the film. But outside of that, you can find me on Twitter as well at John Sauber and on Blue Sky, John Sauber at bsky.social. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, to hit the 5 or hit the 5
5-star button right there. Yeah.
hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. We appreciate all of you, specifically the 4,000 plus of you who subscribe, and I would love to make that number 5,000 relatively soon. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to leave the 5-star ratings and reviews. Those really help us out as I tried to mix up those two things at the end. Listen, I'm proud of myself at this point that's just off the top of the dome. We don't have to worry about the.
We know I can't do it, so it's all you.
This is, I mean, people can go find the solo pod from when I had to get my appendix yanked.
Where I thought I was live and I wasn't.
Yeah, tough scene. Anyway, we will be back next week to talk about Adidas, to talk about a bunch of stuff. And we are here in the rest of the way now. Season's closing in. So until next week, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.